Painkiller Ghosts, Chapter 26. This is part 2 of 2, Unemployment, Photographs, and Home Remedy Painkillers. As soon as Suzanne left, Time went out back to light up the pipe. And he sucked it through real fast, stuck the piece in his pocket, and walked around to the side of the house. He is watching where he steps. He's barefoot, of course. Barefoot in the midst of sharp rocks, he sees one glimmer like fool's gold. So he stops and he picks it up and then keeps on going. He's still in their yard, but walking up the side property line towards the front, when he sees the red car drive up and slow down. Time picks up his speed. He's almost running towards the car, but it hasn't said anything yet. Stan's reaching his arm out of the red car. He'd seen Suzanne's car was gone, and he assumed that the coast was clear. Time, a good shot from throwing tennis balls recently, threw a speed ball with the rock towards the extended hand, hit it dead on, and the cell phone, Stan's cell phone, falls to the ground. Stan's hand goes back inside the car, and he's opening the door again, and he has his foot on the ground when Time runs up and grabs the door and slams it into Stan's ankle. Time then kicks the door one more time for good measure, and he spits at Stan as Stan is flooring the accelerator and speeding away. Time reaches down and picks up the cell phone, puts it into his pocket, the one without a pipe. He stops. He's forgotten his camera. He goes back inside, puts Stan's cell phone down the table, grabs his own camera, hangs it around his neck. He makes sure the back door is locked. Then he heads out the front door and locks it after him. Now he's off for his daily walk. It takes him about 15 minutes to get to Chastity's neighborhood. He sees more for sale signs now than he did just the other day. When he gets there, Chastity's yard still needs to be raked. He sits in the yard across the street. Chastity's house is the only one that looks like it has any signs of life. A kitchen light is on. Time has his camera in his hand. A television is on inside. Time takes off the lens cap. The upstairs bedroom light is going on and off, then nothing for 30 seconds, and then on and off, and then nothing, and then on and then off. He takes a picture of the house with the light on. 30 seconds pass and it comes back on. He takes another picture. 30 seconds pass and it goes off. He takes a final picture and he takes his finger off of the camera's trigger. It comes back on, then goes back off again. Then it is back on and stays. Time sees someone walk over to the window and look out. Time can see her well. He can see her brown hair, her shoulders. He lifts the camera again and zooms in on her. She's looking right into the lens. He takes a shot and then another. She just stares at him. She doesn't smile. She doesn't smirk. She doesn't snarl. She just stares. Then she turns around. She walks away from the window and turns the light off. Time doesn't see her again. He sits for 5 minutes. He thinks of making ants on a log with some broken pills instead of raisins, and he gets up, stares a little longer at the house, and he walks back home for a painkiller snack. When he gets home, there's a voicemail from Mama. He plays it, and she says she's going to be out later than she thought tonight. She's going to work a little later and then drive around after that. She says that what he can set out to thaw for his dinner tonight. And then kisses, she says. She'll see him in the morning. She'll cover him if he's asleep on the sofa in the front of the television, as usual. He hangs up the phone. He walks over to the refrigerator and hunts around for the celery. Then Mama's dairy-free cream cheese. He grabs a butter knife and puts it all down the cutting board. He takes out his prescription bottle from where he left it on the spice rack next to the cumin. He takes out a couple pills, breaks them in half, then halves those and sticks them into the cream cheese he's put on the celery. He's swallowed one bite. He's chewing the second one when he remembers the cell phone the stand dropped. He walks over to it, holds it in his bad hand, and starts pressing buttons on it with his right hand. finds the photo section, scans through a few and says, "Why am I not surprised?" He scans through photos of Mama in the kitchen, right there on that counter, and in some office. It's her. And then he sees Aaron. He brings the little image closer to his blue eyes. He's never seen Aaron like this. And there are photos of this house, of his house. There are at least 24 of them, and some of them Suzanne's car is out front, and the leaves are raked, and another they need to be raked. One is in the rain, one is at night, one is in the day. One shows time just sitting on the steps of the house looking at the clouds. Then there are some photos from what looks like the grocery store Aaron works at, and there's a photo of a woman with a blue bag. And then he sees in another photo that it's her. It's the woman who was on the roof that night that he took those pictures. He goes back to the images of Aaron. He zooms in a little. Yep, it's her too. He takes another crunch of his pain concoction. He chews on it for a while. Time sticks the cell phone in his pocket, lifts his camera back up and puts it around his neck, grabs his baseball hat and walks out the door, again making sure he locks it behind him. Aaron's working now, he says to himself, and he takes off walking to the store to talk to Aaron, to show her what Stan Thimble has on his cell phone. Now it's later that night, and this is how it is. It's raining, and the roads are wet, all wet, and headlights reflect off the city streets. Stan Thimble is limping when he walks in the bar to meet Aaron. His shin was bleeding and is now bruised and scabbed. He had gotten home after his encounter with time from losing his cell phone, and he pulled out the blender and made himself a smoothie and tossed in 4 pills before he pushed the high button. He drank it as he sat on the sofa, and he drank it down with his eyes closed, and he thought about Aaron the way she was the other night in his bed. He finished the drink and felt good, and he sat on the sofa thinking about Aaron and thinking about Suzanne, and he felt good, and then it was time for him to get up and go. The pain pill smoothie was starting to wear off as he walked in and sat on a bar stool next to Aaron, who was smoking a cigarette. She was drinking a bottled beer. He sat down and smiled at her, hadn't even said hello before Aaron puts her cigarette cherry down the top of his hand with her left hand. It's sizzling, and then she upturns her beer, finishes it off, stands up as she's doing it, still holding the cigarette into Stan's flesh. And with her right hand, she hits Stan's nose with the empty beer bottle. Both nostrils start bleeding. She lets go of the cigarette, puts the bottle down calmly, and says to Stan, "I already feel better." He reaches out and grabs her hand quickly and says to her, "I think you'll see me again." And she slips away and leaves the bar. Stan leaves the bar and gets in his car, stops by a liquor store, nose bleeding on the rum aisle. He goes home, swallows 2 pills, crushes one with his molars, and drinks, watching television, holding a handkerchief up to his nose, especially the bloody left side. Now it's later that night, and this is how it ends. Time's asleep. Stan's asleep. Chastity's asleep. Aaron's asleep. Suzanne is driving quickly on the slick roads, and she puts her car into an old oak tree when she misses a curve. It's dark and late, and she's alone, and she's up against the windshield, just like her son Wild. The telephone wakes Time early in the morning, or in the middle of the night, either one. He finds shoes for the first time in a long while, and he sits and puts them on and ties them, listening to the silent house. He leaves through the front door, locks it behind him, and starts walking to the hospital, to identify her. He sucks on uphill like a mint as he walks, alone, crying. He doesn't hear a collar jingle today.